Hi everybody, it's Laura. Thank you so much for joining me on my channel. Today I have a layout that I made for a Punched Out Thursday to Die For. In a Punched Out Thursday to Die For, we use our punches and our dies to create a scrapbooking layout. For this layout, I am using a collection from Bo Bunny called Trail Mix, and even though it's a camping themed collection, these aren't camping themed pictures. But there were some items hanging behind my daughter's friend on the right. They look like they are tree trunk cross sections. So I thought that the colors in this collection went really well with the theme of the restaurant and the colors that are in these photos. When I made this layout, I was at a weekend crop, and every day at this crop they have a different sketch challenge. It's usually a page maps sketch, and you can see it to the left of my pattern paper, kind of tucked underneath. So I'm following that for this layout. For a number of years now, a number of my scrapbooking friends and I have been going to a retreat called Girls Gone Scrappin'. It's in Connecticut. And they always have different ways to earn tickets, and then you can use those tickets and try to win prizes. So one of the challenges that they have is to create a layout using a sketch, and they always provide us with a page maps sketch. So I was really happy to both use the sketch and earn some extra tickets, and I am really happy to say that I did win a prize. There's lots and lots of prizes, but I won a Simple Stories collection pack, so that was a nice bonus. But most importantly, I got some pictures scrapped and I was able to make a layout for Punched Out Thursday to Die For. Another great thing about these weekends is they have some tables set up where people can sell scrapbooking supplies and card making supplies that they no longer want. So I will sometimes bring some of my older supplies, but usually I just go shopping. And there were some bins of paper. They were 10 cents each or 12 for $1. So that's where I got these beautiful Bo Bunny papers. Bo Bunny is such a fantastic manufacturer, I think. So I was really happy to get a whole bunch of these matching papers, all from that Trail Mix collection. And then I picked up a couple of other papers. I'm trying not to acquire too many things at this point. So I used to buy a lot more stuff. Now I'm a little bit more selective, but I couldn't pass up these really pretty Bo Bunny papers. The sketch has two main elements in the background. It has that long piece that has the ripped bottom that I just made out of green paper, and then it also has a horizontal piece. That's the piece that I cut out with that paper that has all the circles on it. And then I inked the edges of both of those papers with Distress ink in Vintage Photo, and now I'm ready to attach the papers down. So in the sketch, the photo cluster is a little offset, and I like that idea. I like the way it's not so symmetrical, but I kind of wish that my photos were in the center of the page, even if the other elements weren't. I feel like I didn't quite arrange them correctly, but in the end, I was happy with the layout as a whole, but that's something that I would go back and change if I was able to. And I'm very sorry for the reflection. There never used to be a reflection when I was filming, but I guess just a slight change in where the table is located could cause that. So I apologize for that. And I can't tell when I'm filming that this is happening. I can only tell later on when I look at the video. So unfortunately, that happened to all my videos that I filmed this weekend. So here I am starting to use some punches and dies on my layout. This is a punch that I use quite frequently. It's made by EK Success. It's a large scallop, and I remember probably 10 years ago, I'm not sure exactly, but about that, watching a Chamel video, and she was using this punch. And when I first started watching YouTube, I had to buy everything that I liked that I saw other people using, and that was in those days when I used to spend a lot of money as a result of watching YouTube. So I purchased this punch and I've been using it frequently ever since. Now, I think I kind of made the wrong decision on this. I punched this scalloped border out of some striped pattern paper, and I ended up using the green side rather than the striped side, and I kind of wish I had used the striped side. I do go in later on and I add some of that striped paper to that area of the layout, but I kind of wish I had made the other choice and flipped the paper over. I am including this little strip of the striped paper. However, a lot of this is going to get covered up with the embellishments that I use. After attaching that thin strip of paper down, I punched out some photo corners, and this is a punch I use all the time. This is an EK Success scalloped photo corner punch. And I punched the photo corners out of green paper, but I'm going to go back later on and I'm going to replace the green photo corners with blue photo corners. I just felt that there wasn't enough blue on the layout, and actually at this point there's almost none, just a little bit that's in the stripe, but I do add some other elements. For example, I fussy cut out a number of banners from the pattern papers, and there was one blue banner, and so I wanted to add a little bit more blue to the page, but for right now I have green photo corners on my layout. And I noticed that on the pattern papers there were these banners in a couple of different spots. So I thought that this would go really well in the lower left-hand corner. On the sketch, there are two small photos there. I didn't have two small photos, so I thought that this would be a good element to put in place of those two smaller photos. So I cut these banners out and I inked the edges, once again with the vintage photo. And now I'm trying to figure out how exactly I want to layer those banners together. I know that I'm going to have to cut some of the banners a little bit shorter just so that they'll fit in that area. And I didn't have any embellishments at all to use on my layouts. I try to travel a little bit lighter when I go to the crops these days. I used to bring so many items, but I found that as long as I have the largest or most important elements for the page, I can go back later when I get home and I can add some embellishments and details. So another item that I purchased from that secondhand table is this set of Stampin' Up dots. I love the way they were all different sizes and a number of different colors. So I added a little green dot to each of the 4 photo corners. I also purchased this sticker sheet from that secondhand table. This was mixed in with the pattern papers, and I thought that it was a great buy for 10 cents. I always use letters like this, and I actually use both of the letters that are on this sheet. There are some kind of teal letters, and there are also some brown letters, so I make use of both of those. I'm spelling out my title. My title is Good Times. I draw a line with a pencil to help me to put those letters on the pattern paper in a straight line. Otherwise, I can only imagine how crooked they would be. And I inked the edges of all of these stickers too. I just wanted everything on the layout to look consistent. And then I trimmed that piece of pattern paper down into a rectangle, and then I mounted it on some of the brown cardstock so that it would be a little bit more noticeable. First, of course, I have to ink the edges of that rectangle as well. And now looking back, I'm wondering if I should have used this brown color or if I should have used the other side of this paper where there was that really pretty blue color. Since I wanted to work a little bit more of the blue onto the layout, that might have been a good choice, but I did use the brown side and then ink the edges before attaching it down. I erased the pencil lines that I used to help me line up the letters. And sometimes I have found in the past that I've damaged the paper by erasing lines. So you have to be really careful, I find, when you're erasing something on pattern paper. Different pattern papers react differently. I use more dots from that same Stampin' Up pack that I showed you earlier, and I put one on the bottom of each of the banners. I don't know if you could tell, but each one is a slightly different shade of green, which I think is really cool. And then I'm using those round brown letters from the Echo Park letter sheet or sticker sheet that I showed you earlier, and I'm spelling out the name of the restaurant, which is Red Fern. And you can see that I'm inking the edges of those letters. Even though they're brown, I just like the way it looks with the slightly darker edge. I wanted to add more of the striped paper to the layout. When I say more, the only little strip of it that I have is pretty much covered up now. So I tried to piece it together at the bottom of the layout, and I have to say it didn't really work out too well. Sometimes I'll use my trimmer not to trim something, but just to tell if something is lined up correctly. So that's what I was doing here. But now I'm going to trim off the excess paper, and it just looked crooked. And then I wanted to try to peel it up, but I really couldn't peel it up easily. So I decided that instead of making a big mess, I was going to go back in and just layer some paper on top of it. So I carefully cut out 3 strips of paper that are all the same width, and I inked the edges, and now I'm just going to layer those right on top of that kind of messy and crooked edge that I have down there. And it might not be obvious on the video just how off it looked, but it just didn't look right. So this ended up working much better than the way that I tried to do it before. But now I have some of that striped paper on the layout. I have also added some fussy cut birds. These were all fussy cut out from those pattern papers. Now I'm back at home and I wanted to add a few more elements to the layout. I wanted to add a little bit more of that striped paper, and then I also wanted to add some leaves around where I had the birds on the layout. I used a Fancy Pants die set and I cut out a number of leaves, and I'm using, once again, my vintage photo distress ink to ink the edges. I didn't have enough of this pattern paper with the stripes going in the direction that I wanted to use to cut out 1 strip of paper, so I cut out 2 smaller strips of paper, and I'm going to piece them together. I find it's really easy to piece together pattern paper when there are stripes on them. And I put that right near that large scallop that I had attached down early on in the layout. Now I'm adding those leaves to the area around each of those 2 larger birds. I was thinking that I needed something to extend those clusters. They're not really clusters right now, they're just 2 birds, but I was thinking that I could make them into an area that looked a little bit more interesting by adding some leaf die cuts to them. When choosing a die to use for the leaves, I was trying to figure out what leaves I had that were similar in size to the leaves that are all around the bird that's on the lower left-hand side of the photos. I thought that this Pink Fresh Studio die matched, not exactly because there are some cutouts in the center, but I thought it went along well with those leaves. And I like this die set because there are 2 different dies. One is a smaller branch, it has 3 leaves on it, and the other one is a longer branch that has multiple leaves on it. And I like this combination of dies. I think that it's nice to have branches that, even though they have the same leaves on them, look a little bit different. It just kind of breaks up the look of the leaves on the layout. So here I'm adding some leaves around the title. I usually tuck the leaves on my layouts behind something. This is, I don't know if it's the first time ever, but it's unusual for me to attach them down without having them behind something. But I think that the title needed a little bit more of an embellishment than just the little bird that's underneath. And then I used some ATG adhesive to attach them down. I put the adhesive on the background and then placed the die cuts over the top because I was afraid that I would break the die cuts with the pressure of the ATG gun if I tried to put the adhesive on the back of the leaves. Now I'm going to be changing those photo corners to blue photo corners, and I felt bad punching into a 12 by 12 inch sheet of paper just for a couple of photo corners, but I really think that I needed more blue in different areas on the layout, so I decided that I was going to go ahead and punch out 4 blue photo corners. And I really like this change. I think that there was enough green on the layout and I needed more of the blue. So once again, I inked the edges and I attached them all down. I had to peel up those green photo corners, but those came up really easily. And then I was thinking I could add just a little bit more of that blue color to the background. So now I'm using this very teeny tiny scallop punch. I find that this punch can be a little unforgiving and I have to really concentrate on lining everything up so that it punches out correctly. But I thought that a little bit more blue at the top would help to round out the blue on the layout. There are little touches of it, but I just thought that I needed a little bit more. So once again, I punch out that strip and then I ink the edges and I'm attaching it down on top of the photo cluster. And then I realized that I forgot to put those dots back on the photo corners, so I add those back onto the layout. And now the layout is complete. Here are a couple of close-ups. Please take a look in the description box and you'll find the links to the channels of the other participants of A Punched Out Thursday to Die For. Kathy, Ronnie Sue, and Sonia create videos not only for A Punched Out Thursday to Die For, but for a number of other challenges and hops as well, and I just know that you'll love their channels. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. I hope you have a fantastic day. I'll see you again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.